Hi folks, Modelling Mark here again, carrying on with the beam engine. This time I'm going to be assembling the crankshaft, the con rod and the eccentric with the eccentric rod. We're going to need the con rod, comes as the main axle with the arm already attached. The connecting rod, it's got a nice brass bush pushed in, brass phosphor bronze, maybe phosphor bronze. The eccentric came ready attached to the eccentric strap and the eccentric rod, and this has already got the fitting to fit onto the valve gear. However, I have put a couple of scratches along here so that if when I disassemble the eccentric strap, then I can get it back round the right way correctly. Got the crank pin, a small collection of nuts and bolts. Some of you may have noticed a missing bolt here. I'm afraid that got lost under the sofa and I'll replace it when I can find it. Start off by putting the crankshaft through the main bearing. As I mentioned in a previous episode, there is another main bearing on a pedestal here, but I'm not going to do that just yet. The crankshaft has got the bushed end which goes through a crank pin here and the forked end which goes over the beam here. Crank pin goes through the con rod. That goes through the crank web and is fixed with a nut. Now the con rod goes onto the beam like that, and that's fitted with a stud, a couple of nuts on it. Okay, onto the eccentric. The eccentric is secured with a grub screw. That just slides on like that. The fork of the eccentric goes on valve lever like that. And then we put a nut on the other end. And finally, we can adjust the position of this so the valve rod is straight, not being pulled. And just tighten the grub screw. Not too tight because we need to set the timing for the engine later. Now all that's left to do is to fit the flywheel and the pedestal. So we're going to need the flywheel, the bearing pedestal, the bearing, and a couple of bolts. First off, fit the bearing with the bolts. Now the flywheel slides on here. That's secured with a little Allen-headed grub screw. Now the bearing pedestal just goes on here. And there is a machine more or less finished. In the next video I'll be setting up the engine and testing it on air. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. And then the bearing pedestal. Get on, git.